Kelly, thank you so much for being here today. I'm really excited to dive into the topic of sales because sales, whether folks want to listen to this or not, is a major component of life. It's a factor in our relationships, it's a factor in creating our goals, the lifestyles of our dreams. And I want to kick it over to you with the first question. Why is sales such a scary thing for so many people?
Good question, Stuart. Here's what I think. I don't know this for a fact, but this is what I believe is the truth. I think people think sales is something you do to somebody
Hmm.
instead of for somebody. See, I think they think that selling is because there's so many negative stereotypes out there, and there's a reason that sales has negative stereotypes.
Hmm.
The used car salesman with a plaid jacket, the big loud talker, cigar in their mouth, big rings on their fingers. Yo, Vinny, come on, I'm gonna make you a sale. You know, but the bottom line is that really all sales is taking your enthusiasm for a product or service, the energy and the love you have for it, and sharing it with somebody, them receiving it. Then it's just a matter of making it easy for them to buy it and have fun doing it. Like everybody thinks sales is this hard pressure. Look, you're a really good salesman or salesperson, I should say. When you're done with your presentation, people go, wow, this is awesome. Can I get it from you? And you go,
Hmm.
well, sure, if you want to. Let's go, bro. But yeah, I think people look at sales as this thing. You don't realize that, we all learn sales as a kid. We learn
Mm.
that, hey, if we cry, maybe we'll get that bottle a little sooner. We'll get more attention from mom or dad. I was very fortunate that I learned from a mentor that, if your kid falls down, instead of,
Hmm.
running over and like babying them and letting them cry, laugh. Make them think it's
Yeah.
funny. And so many times my kid would fall down, they'd scrape their knee and they'd look at me and I'd kind of smile and they'd start laughing and they would jump up. And, another kid would fall down, same thing. And they'd be like crying for 15 minutes. We just kind of made it a fun thing. So, I had to sell my kids on the fact that, hey, falling down is nothing to cry about. Just laugh about it. It was kind of silly. It was a big mistake, but hey, just get up, laugh, move on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, something that I love that you already jumped in and said straight out of the gate is that it's the transference of energy and enthusiasm about a product or a service or even ourselves. Like if you think about what it was like, getting that first date with our partners or introducing yourself to somebody that would become a friend. It's putting yourself out there in a way that's authentically you, but is about expressing what you have to offer.
You said one thing that's really critically important, I think, that most people don't understand is another thing people, I think, don't realize in sales is that they think you have to become somebody else or act in a different manner. Yet
Yeah.
great salespeople are always themselves. I used to make a living from doing seminars. And I got to tell you, when I did seminars, whether it was for a 200 people, whatever, I was like going to be myself. And I knew that I was going to turn off half the audience. And I was so fine with that because I don't want a
Hmm.
bunch of brain damage from people coming in that we just don't connect. Like,
Hmm.
I'm not interested, man. Like, I wanted to turn half the audience on. I wanted to really turn off the other half of the audience because I was going to be me. And when you see me on stage, when you come into my office, I'm the same way. And I tell
Yeah.
people, this is the only time you'll ever see me in a suit. Because when you come into my office, I'm wearing t-shirts, shorts, and flip-flops. That's how I roll. And if you're comfortable with that, great. You don't have to get dressed up to come and see me. You don't need to put on your nice frock that you wear to Sunday church. Just come as you are on your day-to-day basis because we're all about being real. And I think people think sales, you have to be not yourself. That is so far from the truth. So I'm glad you brought that up because that is so true, bro.
Yeah, and just to drill down on it further, because I think this is super important for the folks listening. You're talking about how it's important to be you and to be yourself. And it's going to sound pretty audacious, I think, to some people listening to this, that you actually want to go in only appealing to a certain number of people in the room. And I think that when people think of sales, they associate their self-worth towards it, and they're actually assigning a type of fear towards being rejected, not being accepted by everybody. But you're saying that it's almost like the adage, if you're a friend to everybody, you're a friend to none. And so
Correct.
I'm wondering if you could elaborate on that more about why that matters.
So one of my beliefs from many, many, many years ago is that sales is really just about communication, right? So
Mhm.
if in the old days in cars, we had these things called radios and they had dials, and you
Mhm.
would listen to something called AM or FM radio, right?
Yep.
And if you turn that dial to your favorite radio station, let's say it's 98.7, whatever that station may be. I think in LA back in the day, that was like K Rock or something. And
Yeah.
you could hear the music very clearly, right? But if you turned it to 98.6 or 98.8, you might still be able to hear the music, but it wouldn't come in clear. The bottom line is the fewer people that you really can resonate with, I mean, to a certain point, the more in depth you're going to resonate with them. You know, the word a lot of people use today, and I started using this word 6 years ago when I was traveling with a company called Remote Year, trying to figure out how to be a digital nomad, is tribe.
Mhm.
And I was listening to a podcast the other day, and somebody talked about tribalizing, and that's really what we want to do as salespeople is we want to be able to resonate with our tribe. Now, if you're an entrepreneur, there's a saying, whether you're on the internet or doing seminars or a public speak, whatever, the riches are in the niches. If you try to appeal to everybody, you will appeal to no one. So you've really got
Mm.
to figure out who your core client is. Let me give you an example, Stuart.
Yeah.
Years ago, I was in a coaching program called Strategic Coach. And I don't know if you know who Dean Graziosi is, or,
Yes.
so they were all a strategic coach too. Some very big hitters were in strategic coach. They evidently got more out of it than I did, but I got a lot out of it. And there's two things I got from that. I learned how to like really start to clarify your niche and your ideal client. Now, this is before they came up with the word avatar. So I came back from one of my strategic coach sessions, and I would fly to Chicago from Southern California, so I could like on the way back, I could like internalize what I just did the day before. So I came back and I talked to my staff and I go, hey, listen, you guys, let's do a little project today. I want you to write down the 10 clients you love dealing with the most. And then I want you to write down why you like those 10 clients. Just three or
Mhm.
four reasons, nothing major. So there were seven of us on staff. And when we got back together that afternoon, we all had a list of 10. Now, I will tell you, my list had more to do with money than anything else because
Sure.
but they had more interaction with the clients on a day-to-day basis, right?
Mm.
So what I found out was we had seven clients identically in common. Seven.
Mm.
We all had three that were different. So then I said, okay, what is it about these seven clients that you guys love so much? And we went around the room and I said, okay, from this point forward, this is who we're going to market to, and only this type of people. And so they had very common thread. And that's what we talked about in our advertising. That's what we talked about in our marketing. That's what we talked about when I was at a seminar. And I talked about our family, because your clients are your family.
Yep.
Um, and so that's all we did. And over the next 5 years, I had such record-breaking growth in the financial services industry. I was actually won the award, if you want to say won the award, as the advisor of the year for Boomer Magazine and for Senior Market Advisor Magazine because of the type of operation and the type of volume that we did and the type of assets under management we achieved over a certain period of time. And Stuart, some of those clients have been with me now close to 30 years. I tried to retire 6 years
Nice.
ago. They will not let me. But I also promised that I would be there for them forever, right? And so some of these clients are 80, close to 90 years old, but they're still my clients. And it's because I figured out exactly who we resonated with And
Hmm.
that's all we ever accepted. And anytime I ever wavered from that, it cost me headaches. Like my
Yeah.
staff was mad. They didn't like the client. And it's like, okay, I clearly only took this client on for one reason, money. And I have to fire clients. Like, dude, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, but I think you're better off being. I wanted them to go to my competitor down the road and drive them out of business, not me. Because one thing I learned many years ago in the car business, and I think people really need to understand this. So I got hired to take over a car dealership that was like losing, I don't know, a couple $1 million a year. And I got it to
Oh,
break
wow.
even in 1 year, which was a huge, nobody ever thought we could do it. And we also became the highest customer satisfaction. I had 5 brands and we were number one in each, well, 3 of the 5. We were number one or number 2 or 3 in the other brands for customer satisfaction, customer service. But I had all my salespeople write down who their best clients are. And and what I did was I did a survey of all the deals they did the 3 previous months. And I got some really startling information, which I knew was going to happen. They didn't know it was going to happen. But I said, here's the clients that gave you the best ratings. And that you also said you love these clients. Do you know what they all have in common? They all paid all the money for the car. They paid all the money. They
Hmm.
bought warranties, they financed, and everybody in the dealership loves them. The office managers love them, the service manager loves them, their service writer loves them. Here's the
Hmm.
people that they hate. And they're everybody that ground you when you gave the car away for no money. They complained about, I don't think it was a full tank of gas. I think it was only like 7/8 full.
Hmm.
I go,
Hmm.
the office doesn't like them. The finance manager didn't like them. They didn't buy anything because you gave the car away without selling value. And
Mm.
a lot of people don't understand that people, when they pay you all the money, they understand the value because they're not just buying a product, they're buying you and you taking care of them. And they're seeing how that product can, in a lot of entrepreneurs' cases, can change their life.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
really
And
can't put a dollar value on that.
no, not at all. And I love that we're talking about this because so many people, I feel like, have this type of imposter syndrome when they're getting started in business, or even if they're just in a sales organization pushing a product for a company they're working for. And whether they become afraid of pushing the price, or they get so attached to making the sale that they discount the product and they totally undermine the value. How is it that somebody can fully communicate the value of what they're offering so that they can create those types of relationships that you're describing?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that question. Throw a little pitch in here. I cover that in my book, The Greatest Sale Ever Made, which, by the way, is free for your audience, and we'll cover that at the end. But number one, you have to put the blinders on like a racehorse, right? So you can't see any distractions, and you got to make the greatest sale, which number one and foremost is a sale to yourself. And one
Mhm.
thing I've been incredibly proud of, no matter what business I was in, I bought my product. That's the first thing I did. Um, I tell a story about going to work for a very high-end men's fashion store in Seattle in the late 70s, early 80s, where back in those days, I was selling pants that were 125, 150, $175. Zanella's pants, and I was selling Ferragamo shoes for 250, 275, 300, $400. This is like 1980. This is
Mhm.
40 years ago. That was big
Yeah, yeah.
money.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I learned to demonstrate. I would take a pair of slacks and when I'm talking to a client, I would like tie a knot in them and I'd have him pull one end and I'd pull the other, or her if she was buying it for her husband or friend. And I'd throw them in the corner and I'd say, let's get back to those in about 10 or 15 minutes. And I'd go around and I'd talk about quality, and I would like talk about anything other than them buying clothes. I would talk about the feeling of wearing the right clothes and them lasting a long time and being in style forever and not too trendy and blah, 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 blah. And then I go back over to the pair of pants and I say, okay, you untie those pants. And I say, shake them out. I said, do you see any wrinkles? You go, no. That's why they're $175, bro. Like you wear those pants on an airplane, and you get off the airplane, you're not looking like you need to go get your clothes pressed. I go, you sit in meetings all day long. You look like you just came out of the store like right then and there. And they would be so amazed. They would pay all the money because they
Mhm.
understood the value of high quality clothing. Um, so there's like a couple of stories I tell in my book, and I'm a storyteller. One is I tell the story of, and you've heard the expression, right, Stuart? You can lead a horse to water, but you can't
Get them to drink.
get him to drink. So only an idiot would take a horse who's not thirsty to a watering hole and try to make it drink. You're probably going
Yep.
to get kicked in the head.
Yeah.
On the other hand, if you get on the back of that horse and you ride it around the track a couple times until you see a little bit of like frothing of the corner of the mouth, which means, damn, they're thirsty.
Yes.
You take them close to that watering hole, you don't have enough strength to hold them back. And
Hmm.
we, as salespeople, have to be the rider. We have to get on the back of the client, understand their pain points, ask a lot of questions, and then ride them until they're frothing at the mouth. Then it's just a matter of you making it easy for them to purchase and have a little bit of fun while you're doing it. It's that
Yeah.
simple. It ain't hard, but you got to make that sale to yourself. I tell another story about this client named Doris who came to me when this is probably around 2000, and Ma Bell had just broken up. So this is when Ma Bell became AT&T and Sprint and T-Mobile or whatever their companies were. She came to me with about 1,200,000. And I did a really good job I did a really great presentation, covered all the things that were kind of important, but I didn't want to push too hard. I didn't want to close a little old lady. I'm 40 something year old dude. I don't want to be pushy. So she
Hmm.
left, came back 5 years later. Kelly, I need help. I'm down to $500,000. I've lost $700,000 in the last 5 years. Can you help me get the
Wow.
money back? I went, oh, damn. Like, what the heck? Because she bought from an inferior salesperson who didn't understand what her real true needs were. He did a better job of closing, but he unfortunately did a really crappy job of handling her money. So I
Mm.
told her the truth. I can't help you make that money back. There's a possibility, but I'm not going to promise I can't. What I can do is keep your money intact so you don't lose any more. And I gave a good presentation. Boom. I didn't close her. She came back
Hmm.
5 years later to ask me if I knew an attorney who could do a reverse mortgage on her house because now she's broke. In 10 years, she's lost 1.2 million freaking dollars, and she has to do a reverse mortgage just to be able to exist because she didn't have enough money coming in on Social Security. Now,
Wow.
whose fault is that? Honestly, it was mine. I knew
Hmm.
better. Dude, I should have closed her ass. Excuse my French. But I didn't want to be pushy, even though I knew in my mind, in my heart, I could make her good money, protect it all, and give her a good lifestyle. But I didn't want to be pushy. See, I hadn't, in her particular situation, made the greatest sale to myself. I didn't put on an opening night performance. I didn't close the deal. And
Hmm.
it cost her $1.2 million. Now,
Wow.
when I go into a sale, how much you want to think? How many times do you think when it comes to closing, do I have that thought in my mind when I'm getting ready to close somebody?
Probably all the time at this point.
Yeah, every deal. I heard a good quote the other day from somebody. He said, how much do you have to hate somebody to not share the fact that Jesus can give them eternal life? Now, I don't know if you're a Christian, but I am. But that thought, you can take it that not only as a Christian thought, but you could take that as a business thought. How much do you have to hate somebody or dislike somebody to not share with them the benefits of your product and service and close them so they can actually take advantage of it? Like,
Yeah.
how much do you have to dislike somebody to not help them get your product? You
Yeah.
can tell I'm a little passionate about this, right? I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, but that's true. Like if you had the cure for cancer, wouldn't you share it with everybody and make them take the cure? Well, you don't have the cure for cancer, but you do have the cure for what ails them. Like
Yeah.
when they're coming to see you or they're there's something that entices them. Man, give it your best
Yeah.
shot. Like this
Yeah.
is the only time you may ever see them. Don't let them walk out the door, get an inferior product from an inferior salesperson who's looking for an inferior company who is not going to be there after they buy. And when you
Yeah.
get a client, make sure they use the damn thing properly, whatever you're selling. Take care of them after the fact. See,
Hmm.
I learned from the old school sales trainers, and I mean old school, bro. I'm talking about like the 1920s. These guys didn't talk about closing techniques, they didn't talk about blah, blah, blah. What they talked about is serving first, asking questions, getting to know and love your client, taking care of them. If it's the right thing to do, help them do it. If it's not the right thing to do, send them down the road, steer them in the right direction, do what's right.
Yeah, I love it. I'm fired up and I appreciate you bringing the energy today, Kelly. This is amazing. And I cannot double down more on what Kelly just shared, y'all. Like, you have something valuable for the right people out there, and if you're not going to step up to the plate and take your best swing at conveying the value of what you have to offer, then you're not only not going to reach your goals financially or success wise, whatever you're measuring yourself against, but you're also not going to create the impact in the world that you want. And if you're not selling people into your vision of what's possible and on the value of what you provide, like you can't create whatever it is you want to. You know, one of my favorite quotes ever that I think about pretty frequently. The late Zig Ziglar, in all of his books, says something to the effect of, we can get whatever we want in life as long as we help enough people get what they want. And I feel like that's all that you're describing here, Kelly, is having the courage to just step up and make it about the other person and not about ourselves. Like if I'm giving you a call about some product that I have to offer, and I'm so afraid to really get into the conversation with you, I'm no longer in a place of service. I'm making that about me. I'm making it
Right.
entirely about me, that I'm not going to share with you what I have to offer.
Yeah, I've been fortunate. um, when I learned sales, I learned one thing from it. So let me tell you how I got into sales. I had just come
Mhm.
out of the Marine Corps. This was like 1974, three. I don't know. I came out in 73. So this is probably end of 74. Yeah, it was the end of 74 because next 3 months from now will be my 50th year in sales. So in the old days, we had to do these things. I don't know if people today know what they are. They're called resumes, and you had to actually print them off of a printer and take them out in person and actually drop them off, right?
What a novel concept.
Yeah. So I did that, and like after a month of knocking on doors and dropping off resumes, nobody gave me a call. But finally, one day, a lady called me back and said, I want to interview. Let's talk." So I go to meet this lady. I put on my best suit and everything else, and she just basically told me, "Dude, you suck. You'll never make it in sales. You're the most
Mhm.
incredibly horrible interview I've ever had." And she just raked me over the coals. I felt like she just put me at the end of a gangplank on a pirate ship and kicked my ass overboard. But she threw me a lifeline. And
Mhm.
and and I wish I could remember her name. And if she was alive today, I would call her and let her know how much she changed my life. But she said, "Hey, listen, if you're really serious, I don't know what it is. Something tells me that you may have actually picked the right profession, but right now you are horrible. You need to work on your game." She didn't
Sure.
use those exact words. I don't think we use words like that in those days. So she wrote on a piece of paper. She goes, "Go here, take this course, and if you graduate, graduate on time. And if you're at the top of your class, it won't work for me because you don't wear the clothes I sell, but I'll get you a job with a friend of mine who will hire you. But you got to
Mhm.
do this first." And that was the Dale Carnegie Sales School. And you also
Nice.
had to do the public speaking course, which was like, oh my God, I cannot do this. Like, I cannot ever get up in front of people and talk, right? Lo and behold, they unleashed a tiger in me. And my favorite thing in the whole world is probably one of my favorite things in the whole world was getting on stage in front of thousands of people and giving a presentation. And hopefully, I have never gotten a full 6,000 people to stand up and applaud, but I've got a lot of people to stand up and applaud and give me a standing ovation. But I finished that sales training school in, I think I don't know if it was like 8 weeks, 12 weeks. I think it was 12 weeks because I didn't get my first job until March of 74.
Hmm.
So that's why March will be 50 years. And my first mentor, this was a shoe store, a family shoe store. And my first mentor taught me when you're dealing with women and you're selling shoes, don't listen to everything they say. They're going to tell you they want a size 7, but when you measure their foot, they're like at 8.5 or 9.
Hmm.
So you sell them what they want, but give them what they need. So
Mm.
he would tell me stuff like, "Oh, I've got the perfect shoe for you." Now, don't worry about what it says, the 9.5. These run really small. They're more like a 7. And the women's feet would be all crumpled from being in shoes that are way too small. I just tell them this is a 7. Oh, it fits so perfectly. It's so comfortable. And then he also taught me that your brain can only have now, Dr. Tony Alessandro and a lot of other very, very famous trainers later on
Hmm.
talked about, cognitive thinking and the subconscious. And your brain can only have one thought at one time, right? He goes, make people have fun, make people laugh. He goes, if they're laughing, they're much more probably moving towards buying something or even more stuff. But if you don't make them laugh and you're too serious, then they're going to have their guard up. So he taught me how to have humor and have fun with my clients. Like, if it ain't fun, dude, we're just not going to work together. I don't need headaches. I don't need brain freaking damage. Like, let's have fun. This does not have to be arduous.
Yeah.
And I was very fortunate that I learned the right way to sell. And a lot of people don't know that all the old sales trainers, Zig Ziglar, J. Douglas Edwards, O.G. Mandino, they were all Christians. And they didn't have a lot of techniques, but they talked about, like you just said, serving first. Help
Yes.
more people solve their problems, you will get rich. I heard a saying the other day. It was like, if you put your effort into your work, you'll make money and you'll be comfortable. It'll be easy. But if you put
Hmm.
money into yourself, then you can make a fortune. And quite
Yeah.
often, we don't, as humans, put money into ourselves. And I heard another thing. It was called the 33%. I really love this because it said, we've all heard that forever, that we are the accumulation of our 5 closest friends. And if you want to
Yeah.
take your game to a new level, you got to start hanging out with people that are in a bigger game than you are. It's like I was a tennis player in high school. Sucked, by the way. I sucked, but you learn if you're a tennis player or if you're a wrestler. I was a wrestler in high school, and I had state champions in my weight class, the weight class above me, the weight class below me. So I was doomed to never be on the varsity team because they were
Right.
state champions.
Right.
But I had to practice against them every day. So when I was wrestling JV, nobody could ever beat me because
Yeah.
I played against the best. So the 33% rule is you want to spend 33% of your time being mentored by or hanging around with people at the level you want to be at or you want to go to, the achievements you want to achieve. You need to spend 33% of your time in a peer group where you can all help make each other better and you can all grow and learn from each other. And then you need to spend 33% of your time with people that are not at your level, teaching and mentoring them. So you're giving back to society and your profession. And I think a lot of people don't realize that there's this much difference between being good and being great. We all settle for being good. Like, I'm a good husband, I'm a good father, I'm a good coach, I'm a good
Hmm.
soccer player. Like, bullshit. Excuse my French. Like, why do you want to be good? Like, why don't you
Yeah.
put in the extra damn effort and be great? Like,
Yeah.
get to the gym 15 minutes earlier. Don't make excuses. Look, I've been in sales 50 years. I don't think I've ever been below 100K. Like, if I only made 100 grand, I would be really upset. But if you want to get to that level, you got to keep your freaking tools sharp, bro. You got to like study.
Yeah.
This last year alone, I've entered 3 different sales training schools to see what they're teaching. I know more than most of them, but in every one of those cases, I've learned some really cool stuff. And I'm
Yeah.
really amazed at the quality of some of this training that's out there today. But do people actually spend the money, the time, or the effort to master it? No, they let it just kind of go in one ear. One thing I learned in the Marine Corps is called PDR, practice, drill, and rehearse. When I
Hmm.
first got into financial sales, I still believe in recording my calls, listening to myself. And it's really cool on Zoom. You can see yourself now. So you see what your facial expressions, your body language is,
Yeah.
how you're coming across to the other people. And you can see them. So when you're reviewing it, you can see when you're talking, what you're doing, how it's resonating with them. But I remember one day out on a Saturday, I used to always make my calls for the month on a Saturday. And I would listen to some of my sales calls. And my wife comes up to me, she goes, dude, like, when did you start stuttering? I go, I don't stutter. He goes, you were just stuttering. I go, I was not stuttering. I don't stutter. He goes, yeah, right. Listen to the tape. And she just walks away. And I go, okay, I'll listen to the tape. I turned the tape on. Sure enough, I was stuttering. And then I
Wow.
realized, oh, because when I went into the financial services business, I asked my boss, can I just travel with you for 1 week? And all I did
Hmm.
was mimic everything he did. In fact, at one point, there's two places in his sales presentation that he stuttered every time. Guess what
Really?
I did in my sales presentations every time? I
You picked
stuttered.
up the stutter.
Because look, success leaves a trail, it leaves clues, right? So
Hmm.
does failure, by the way. The unfortunate thing is the failure clues are easy to pick up, easy to
Yeah.
see, and the success ones are a little bit tougher to pick up, a little bit harder to see. You might have to put some more effort into it, but they both lead in different paths.
Yeah.
The problem is we always pick the easy road, the road to failure versus the road to success. And Tony Robbins talks about this, Dean Graziosi and everybody who's anybody in that world talks about this all the time. Man, you just got to get a mentor and
Hmm.
do what they do. I'm telling you, he stuttered, I stuttered.
Yeah.
That's it. I mean, in every industry I got into, I found somebody that I could resonate with that I felt could be a mentor for me. And I just found out what they did and I just duplicated their effort. If you duplicate their effort long enough, you'll get the same results. You can't help it. In fact, that's even talked about in the Bible in Genesis, like you do, you be, you do, you have, it's first part of Genesis in there somewhere, but it's like you've got to act like you're at that level. That's why so many people talk about goal setting and dream boards and stuff like that. But you're talking in not past tense or future tense, in present tense. I am I have this. Let me tell
Yes.
you a little bit of I was listening to this podcast this morning actually, or not podcast, a training thing on remote sales.
Hmm.
Um, and the guy was talking about a dream board, and I was like, oh, I used to do a dream board presentation for my kids' elementary school. It was so much fun. And then I did it on stage in front of like 2,000 financial advisors, and we made it a game. It was really, really, really fun. I'll tell you kind of two stories along with that. One of the things I did is we had these big poster boards, and we had at different ends of the stage, and I had advisors come up with their spouse, and then we had magazines for them, and they had to create a dream board, and we told them we didn't tell them how to put it together, but it was really funny. Some people would just slap stuff up there, which is how you should do it, and others would cut stuff out and they'd put it up there nice and neat. And I'm like, man, you guys are way too anal, right? But I remember this one guy, we did the dream board, and on the dream board, I was interviewing the spouses on stage after this presentation. Now, this is in front of 2 or 3 thousand people, right? And the guy goes, yeah, man, I really always wanted to fly, but I know my wife doesn't want me because she thinks it might be dangerous. And she realized that she's been holding him back for this dream that he's always had. Well, I got a call 6 months later. He had now got his private pilot's license. They've been out flying, and
Wow.
she said it just changed the whole. They had a good marriage. Now they have a great marriage. But most
Love it.
importantly, he's a lot more successful and a lot more happy. Well, after I did that presentation, I had an assistant working for me named Gina, and I took all my staff to Tony Robbins one time because Tony's actually a friend of mine. So he got my whole staff in for free, and they all sat in VIP, which was kind of cool. And Gina changed her whole life. She started losing weight, getting healthy, eating right. And she honestly had the worst. nobody would go into a room within 20 feet of her because her breath was so horrible. But she was just a wonderful person, just horrible eating habits. Well, within 3 months, that's all gone. And she worked for me for a long time. And when I was shutting down my business and going in a different direction, she went to work for somebody else doing something else. I don't know. I get a call like 4 years later. She goes, Kelly, I go, hey, Gina, what's up? She goes, hey, I gotta tell you something. She goes, do you remember when you gave that presentation of dream boards at the so-and-so conference? Yeah, well, I was there, I was helping out, and I took that dream board and I came back, and I don't know if I ever told you, but I did my own dream board, but I just kind of rolled it up, put it under the bed, and forgot about it. She goes,
Hmm.
I pulled it out this morning, and the reason I pulled it out is because I'm moving from my current house, and I bought a house. I finally bought my very first house. And she goes, I opened up the dream board. She goes, I didn't realize this, but when you had us do the dream boards, I actually took a picture of a house down the street, and I said, I'm
Hmm.
going to have that house in 5 years. And she goes,
Wow.
I forgot about that. And guess what? Today's the day I'm moving into that exact house, and it's
Let's
on my dream.
go.
And I was like blown a freaking away, right? I was like, wow. But that's the power of putting that stuff together, looking at it, because internally, that's where your mind is going, right? I mean, somebody told me a story a long time ago, like never have your wallet in your back pocket, put it in your front pocket, and if need be, put your hand in there. So you're always got your wallet in mind, because where your
Hmm.
mind goes, energy flows, right? So if your mind
Yes.
is always thinking about your wallet, your energy is going to flowing towards money. So, but yeah, those are all true statements. Whatever you think about, like who is it? Henry Ford. If you think you can, you can. If you think you can't, you can't. Uh,
Yeah.
um, I remember Einstein was being interviewed by a bunch of reporters, and one reporter said to him something about being the smartest man in the world. He goes, hold on a minute. I am not remotely close to the smartest man in the world. I just try harder and longer than everybody else. That's it.
Yeah.
Isn't that the truth in sales or getting good at anything? Um, I,
Absolutely.
you know, I'm almost 72. If I were to show you my guns right now and I were to take my shirt off, which would scare your audience, by the way, and I've had some health issues, but it's like going to the gym 1 hour a week doesn't get you in shape or do you any good. But if you
Mm-mm.
go to the gym every day for 40 minutes, 45 minutes, and you consistently just lift and have fun, you feel so much better. But it takes a while for your body to morph. I was at the Coachella Music Festival. I went 19 years in a row, but and about 8 years ago, I was at the festival, and there was a guy named OBJ. I don't know if you know who he is, Odell Beckham Jr., wide
Hmm.
receiver for the Giants, right? So he's there with some gal named Amber Rose, and they're on like some electric
Yeah.
bike
Yeah.
or something. So there's a picture of them together with his face mask on. And it goes viral over the internet. Like 2 million people saw this doggone picture because he was the man back in the day. But I look at that, I saw a picture, and that picture changed my life. Now you're probably thinking, in
Interesting.
your audience, I'm sure is thinking, oh, the heck can a picture of OBJ and Amber Rose change somebody's life? Because at the back of that picture is some fat guy with a red hat. That was me. And I saw that picture and I went, oh, that's what I look like when I'm not standing up straight, holding my stomach in. And I was lifting. I mean, I could literally bench press close to 300 pounds 5 times. Now, and I mean close to 300, I'm talking like 295. Like, so I was strong, but I was fat. Like a lot
Hmm.
of power lifters are kind of overweight. But I said, oh, no, 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 no. That is not going to be my legacy. If I ever am in a picture again and that thing goes viral, people are going to be saying, who cares about OBJ? Who's the guy back there that's all studded out, looking good, got tattoos, a cool mustache, and he's ripped?
Hmm.
Today, I'm that guy.
Love it.
Big, bad sales grandpa. That's me.
Let's go.
And it took me years, and I don't lift heavy. I just cut out a few, look, if you want to be great at anything, you got to sacrifice, man. You got to sacrifice something. So what are you willing to sacrifice? Well,
Yeah.
instead of having pizza 4 nights a week, maybe it's only one. Maybe I need to, use olive oil versus butter. Um,
Yeah.
maybe I need to slow down, like one thing that I have not stopped is drinking wine. Because if 2 glasses of wine is good for you, 2 bottles a day ought to be great. I still subscribe to that philosophy, by the way. But I cut out all the super negative things in my life, and I'm not missing anything. I found better, and I'll tell you what happened after that picture. 2 years after that picture, um, I had a cardiac event. It wasn't a heart attack, but it was a cardiac event.
Hmm.
And they said I had three arteries clogged 95%. And I had to have open heart surgery and have a triple bypass. Here's what the doctor told me. If you hadn't been eating a good lifestyle the last couple of years and you hadn't been working out, you may not have made it through this procedure.
Wow.
Now,
Wow.
right after that, I came down with diabetes, or it was evidently diabetes from before, and it wasn't type 2, just food oriented. It's because I have this really strong immune system. But I also had to have back surgery. Now, both my doctors told me I was their fastest recovering patient they've ever had. Like I literally
Wow.
was up walking around after open heart surgery the first day. I was lifting weights within 4 weeks. 4 weeks.
Wow.
Doctor said there's no way you can lift weights for 3 months. After my first, he goes, okay, you're good to go. Just don't strain yourself. I go, yeah, I'll try not to, doc, but that's not my personality. But
Sure.
like, and when I had back surgery, I was up, I walked the whole floor 2 times the first day after back surgery. Doctor said he's never had anybody get up within 24 hours and walk around the floor once, let alone twice within 12 hours of having back surgery.
It's
Why? Because
amazing.
I took care of myself for the 3 years prior to that. So that did it impact me? Heck yes.
Hmm.
But was I able to recover quicker? Yeah. And I'm like, again, almost 72. Like when I'm in Spain right now, you know that. Like, I do remote sales. We're pretty good at it. And I teach sales. I have a book that teaches people sales. But I designed my life, and thank God I did starting 8 years ago, because if I didn't, I probably realistically wouldn't be here today.
Yeah.
And I haven't really had to sacrifice a whole lot. And I'm very fortunate because I tell you what, if I would have met my wife when I looked like the guy in the red hat in that OBJ picture, she wouldn't be my wife today. I'll tell you that right now. I met my wife on St. Patty's Day 7 years ago, this coming March. I was pretty ripped. And she checked me out. She was going, "Oh man, that's a cool sweater you're wearing." I go, "Thank you." And we started talking, and now we're married 6 years. We travel 6 months
Congratulations.
of the year. Thank you. We spend 24 hours a day together. We're just living our best life. And it's because we had a plan and we're both in sales. And we know that as long as we're really good at our craft, we never have to worry about money. So, and a
Love
lot
it.
of people, a lot of people in sales think it's the total opposite. Like, oh my God, how can you work on commission? You don't know what you're going to make. Yeah, I do. I know what I'm going to make. All I got to do is go to work
Yeah. Yeah. And you're going to bet on yourself and you're going to,
all day long.
call your own number every single time. Kelly, this has been an absolutely amazing conversation. I feel like I can run through a wall right now. I want to make sure that folks know how to get your book, The Greatest Sale Ever Made, and where can they connect with you offline so that they can learn more about Kingdom Sales Academy or anything else you got going on, because you're clearly somebody that we can all learn from, not only in terms of how to sell, but just owning who we are and giving it out to the world fearlessly.
Yeah, Stu, look, one thing I've learned in life is somebody asked me my big why, and and I told him, look, at the end of the day, when the good Lord comes to take me up to the pearly gates, I want him to look down at me and say, "Good job, loyal, faithful son," not, "Kelly, you so disappointed me. I gave you so much talent and you wasted it." I'm trying to follow the 30-30, the 33% rule. I need to mentor people. I need to give back. I need to help people understand that if they've got a product or service, they need to take their game to a new level. So um, I think my assistant, April, sent you a link that if they do that link, all they do is to put their email in there, they'll get
Mm-hmm.
a copy of my book for free. And they'll also be on the email list for my new book that comes out, which will be about 2.5 times as big with a lot more technique in it, a lot of questions and stuff like that. But that'll be coming out somewhere probably in December. Well, I guess we're already in December. I'm already about a month late. So it'll come out the first quarter of next year, and they'll get a copy of that for free as well. It is an Amazon 3-time bestseller.
Yes.
So it is, I believe, a really good book. It's an easy read. I think I did a pretty good job on that book. But if they want to reach out to me personally, they can just reach me at Kelly at kingdomsalesacademy.com, and I'll make sure my assistant gets you the links. If they want to, talk to me, they can schedule a 15-minute call on my Calendly, and I'd be glad to talk to them. Yeah, so we're not really doing much through Kingdom Sales Academy right now because I'm in the middle of doing a bunch of remote sales because I'm trying to take that part of my
Understood.
game to a new level. But I'm always willing to help people in sales. Like there's a few things I love talking about: health and fitness, music, which I could talk about for days. I'm a huge music fan, hit about 20 concerts a year and 2 or 3 music festivals, and then sales. I mean, I live and breathe sales. It changed my life. And
Hmm.
my wife and I travel 6 months of the year. We're in Spain currently. We've been in Portugal this year. We've gone to Italy in a few months. We were in Panama earlier this year, Costa Rica earlier this year. And we do all this because we can sell and
Yeah.
we have a ball doing it. So if if you want to have a dream life, first you got to figure out what that life looks like. But sales is the way to go. It is
Yeah.
the way to go.
Yes. And folks, I can attest to everything Kelly's saying, because when I stopped being afraid of sales, which really was just about me choosing to embrace it, choosing to embrace the work that it would take to get really good at it and to master it as a skill, my life began to take off. And so I encourage anybody listening to this, even if you don't think this conversation has been applicable to you, I promise you it is, because sales is about just transferring who we are, our energy, and conveying what we have to offer to other people. And so I'm going to make sure that Kelly's info, get the book, the link for the book is all going to be made available in the show notes below. Also, anywhere you are catching this episode, whether it's Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts. And Kelly, I feel like we could keep going for probably a couple more hours, but in the interest of time, I always wrap the show with the same question for every guest. What are you acknowledging yourself for today?
Perseverance and the love of my craft to try to be a legend.
Mm. Can you expand on that a little bit more? What does that mean to you?
You know, I think at the end of the day, I want people to say, man, that Kelly guy was really into sales. He really shared with me a lot of insights. He gave me This happened to me about 7 years, no, 5 years ago in Florida. Guy came up to me who saw me 8 years before and said I was one of the best speakers he ever saw, but he said the second best. I'm wondering who the first was, but and he said that he took about 12 points from my workshop away, and he became the number one financial rep in his firm and makes about 7 figures a year. He spends every weekend with his kids. He only works 3 days a week, 3 weeks a month, like I used to. And he goes to all of his kids' events. He's able to help out. He goes to all the dance recitals. He goes to all he doesn't miss any important date with his kids. And at the end of the day, nobody on their deathbed has ever said, bring me my trophies. I want to die holding my trophies. Can you bring all the money
Mm-mm.
from the bank? I want to hold my money when I die. You know what they say? I wish
Right.
I could have been a better father. I wish I could have been there for my kids. I wish I'd have been a better husband or a better mother, better wife. And that's kind of what I want from, I was able to do that myself, and I want to be able to share that with other people. And I would like to say, I'd like to have people say, Kelly Shaw was my mentor, and he shared all the right things with me to help make my life and my family's life the life that we all deserve.
I love that. I love that. And Kelly, as we wind this down, I just want to acknowledge you for just being a servant, being a child of God, and just knowing what you're good at, what the gifts are that he gave you, and choosing to give them away to the world. And not only in doing so, but inspiring others to do the same. We've been on this conversation for, call it 50-ish minutes, and I am so ready to go tackle my day. Like it's first thing in the morning here in Columbus, Ohio, but I'm ready to tackle my day. I'm ready to go get after it. And I know that the listeners are going to do the same as soon as this episode comes out. So, truly, brother, thank you for being a mentor today. Thank you for really just showing up and putting in the work, because you made a difference on today's conversation. And folks, this has been another episode of Your Inside Track to Success. We will be back with another guest or message next week. Please hit like, please hit subscribe, and please share this out with at least one other person who you know will benefit. We'll see you then.